This is the city of Chennai, capital of the state of Tamil Nadu in southern India, formerly known as Madras. It was here in September 1986, in temperatures that hovered around 40 degrees Celsius and 80% humidity, that one of the most remarkable cricket matches in the history of the game was played between India and Australia.
Now it's all up to Shastri. The gallery is in absolute rapture.
This is a story of extreme physical endurance.
Because I was cramping that much and I just couldn't release, I was screaming to high hell.
It is also a story about pride and passion.
Hey, you guys think this is one-day cricket or what? This is test cricket. We are facing follow-on, blah, blah, blah. All of us just got blasted.
There were angry on-field confrontations between players.
I'm going to stick this bat where the sun don't shine, and he bent over and said, well, do it.
And heated arguments with umpires.
I'm telling you, calm down. Don't talk to me like this. I'm telling you.
Oh, you can't send me off. Then I thought to myself, well, maybe you can.
Then, to top it all, for only the second time in the history of Test cricket, it ended in a tie.
It's a tie. The match has ended in a tie. It's an unbelievable result.
Leads his Australians out in the unofficial test which they won against an Indian 11 at Bombay.
Prior to the 1980s, contact between India and Australia in cricket terms had been rather sparse. The first tour by any Australian side to India was in 1935-36, when a team comprised of some first-class and retired Test cricketers made an unofficial visit under the patronage of the Maharaja of Patiala.
Ryder, the Aussie skipper, plays the Indian bowling with great confidence and knocks off a century on the first day, but he finds that the garland awarded him cramps his style.
It was Richie Benaud who led an Australian side on the first full official tour of India and Pakistan in 1959-60 in what was an arduous 3-month campaign.
There was quite a deal of illness to the players and sickness, quite serious illness. Gordon Rourke, Gavin Stevens, Lindsay Klein suffered from hepatitis. Gavin Stevens didn't play first-class cricket again.
Tours of the subcontinent were not relished by Australian cricketers during the 1950s and 60s because of the difficult conditions. Although Bill Laurie's 1969 tour turned out to be a success on the field, it was marred by a host of off-field problems, crowd disturbances and riots.
They were tough tours because of poor accommodation, because of uncertainty with the food, uncertainty with hydration, a lack of education from the Australian authorities about how to tackle a tour of India and Pakistan.
Then in 1979, Kim Hughes led an inexperienced Australian side on another full tour of India.
That's a good shot from Hughes, that's true. 24.
We were a very young cricket side. It was during the World Series cricket revolution. And so there's a lot of big names missing from the Australian team. And the only one who seemed to flourish over there was Kim Hughes, because he ate everything and ate all the local food, you know, the curries, etc. And he flourished. I think he put on weight. All the rest of us were eating naan bread and bananas, and we struggled with our weight. And but I think everyone got different bouts of Delhi belly at different stages on that tour. I think it's just unavoidable as, you know, Westerners going to that sort of culture.
By the time Australia embarked on their next tour of India in 1986, Allan Border was the captain of the Australian team.
The crowds can be a bit boisterous, but you know, as long as you go in there expecting a hard time and not take things too easily, we should do reasonably well.
The mid-1980s was a low point in Australian cricket. Reeling from the defection of 16 players to rebel tours of apartheid South Africa, Australia had won only 3 of its last 25 Test matches and had not won a Test series for nearly 3 years.
And so to 1986, where again there's a crisis, and again there's Bob Simpson digging in deep for Australian cricket.
I think the point missing at present is there's not quite the number of senior players around who had vast experience to pass on their knowledge. I think that's missing.
Former Australian Test captain Bob Simpson was brought in as cricket manager. His mission? To help Allan Border rebuild the Australian Test team.
It was a bit like a jigsaw puzzle. We set aside a group of 5 players who we thought had the attitude and the nous and this stubbornness to be, fine Test cricketers. One, of course, is Allan Border, Craig McDermott, David Boon, Jeff Mahush and Steve Waugh. And they were the first 5 who went into the jigsaw puzzle.
Myself as captain and Bob Simpson as coach, we felt that we were starting to develop a good nucleus. So going to that tour of India, we had high expectations that we could hold our own.
The first Test match of the 1986 series was played in Madras at the MA Chidambaram Stadium, at the very time of the year when the hot and humid conditions were at their worst.
It was the beginning of the northeast monsoon season. It's never easy to play cricket in India at any time of the year, but this particular time in the south of India is very confronting for athletes. The conditions are incredibly enervating, and they take a very big toll on the players, not only on their bodies but on their minds as well. Very tough conditions.
We hopped off the plane and we had to walk across the tarmac midnight, and our shoes, well, we could smell the rubber burning off the tarmac. We just couldn't believe how hot it is, because we hear all the old blokes talking about it, but you don't really actually know how hard it is until you get there.
It was so humid and sapping and draining, and training sessions were intense because we were training much longer than the Indians, so they thought we were pretty crazy. They thought we'd left all our energy on the practice park, but that was a new attitude that we believe we had to train hard to improve, and we just got on with the job.
What I remember is that we had just come back from a very successful tour of England. We'd beaten England 2-0. We should have maybe won the 3-0.
The best thing for Indian cricket at that time was that, we had Kapil Dev, our captain, who was very, very positive. He would rather lose, than go for a draw. So he would put that, in everybody's mind. He would have us in a positive frame of mind all the time, that you got to win a Test match.
I think perhaps my style of cricket was different than Indian, what used to play at that time. We, all Indian, was very subdued cricketer. I think I was come out so aggressive suddenly.
His only mission was to make sure that he instills this thing in the boys, that you've got to be positive, you've got to beat this Australian side, and if you beat this Australian side, I think we'll be number 1 in the world.
We knew we were gelling together as a good side, and part of the 86-87 season was building up towards the World Cup in India the following year.
This Madras Test marked a remarkable milestone for the Indian batting maestro, Sunil Gavaskar. It was his 100th consecutive Test match for India.
For somebody who didn't take the kind of training that the others did as seriously, I think it was something to play 100 consecutive Test matches without really having any sort of niggles like a pulled muscle and all that. And I would always joke with the guys, look, you guys do all this 20 laps of the ground stuff, and I do maybe just 2 laps of the ground, and maybe that's the reason my muscles are okay, while yours get too stiff.
Australia almost went into this Test match minus one of its key spin bowlers.
Well, I unfortunately had a pizza the night before the game. 3 hours after I'd eaten my pizza, I thought my world was going to end. So I did go into the match a little bit ill, and that probably stayed with me for a lot of the game.
With temperatures around 40 degrees Celsius and 80% humidity forecast for the next 5 days, the toss was all important.
If we had lost the toss, I still don't know whether I would have got on the park. But the toss went up, and Liz had come in and suggested that we were batting, so I immediately fell back on the couch I was on, or the table I was on, and proceeded to spend the day there, of course.
I don't think I've ever seen or played in a Test match where the conditions over 5 days were so appalling as that Madras Test match. It was terrible. The humidity was bad. We're there at the wrong time of the year. That Buckingham Canal outside the ground stunk every time there was a breeze come up.
The Buckingham Canal runs right alongside the stadium. It was an old waterway for traders in the time of the British, that has now become an open sewer as a result of the sprawl of urban Madras, overflowing into the nearby Bay of Bengal.
The waft that was coming across the ground from the Buckingham Canal, where there was sort of these mysterious gases and green slime sort of slowly moving around the ground in this canal.
It's suffocating enough, but then as the breeze comes from the wrong direction, the Buckingham Canal does play its role just to add to the mysteries of India, if you like, just the stench coming out of the open sewer that is the Buckingham Canal.
The opening ball of the series was sent down by Indian skipper Kapil Dev, but only rarely did he beat the bat.
Jeffrey, Robert, Marsh and I decided that Australia really get off to a good start, so no matter what we had to do, we had to try and do that for everybody else, because it was really, really hot on that first day and we had to continue through.
Openers Marsh and Boon settled in quickly as the temperature hovered in the high 30s. Marsh even prompted Dev to remove himself from the attack after only his third over.
This time, Jeff Marsh manages to beat the two men on the offside.
20-year-old paceman Chetan Sharma tried to extract life and paid the penalty. Next ball, Boon repeated the treatment as the Australians built an opening stand of 48. Dev had introduced spin after only 7 overs and he was finally rewarded. Marsh on 22 played across Yadav's line and top edge to the Indian captain.
We'd pretty well established our opening pair with Boon and Marsh, and who was going to fill that pivotal number 3 role.
I get this call from the skipper, Allan Border, come to my room. Went to his room, he said, sit down, you want a drink? Thanks. So we sit down, had a Pepsi or water or something, we were just talking, and he said, right, you're my number 3 for the next couple of years. Do you want it? And he looked me down the barrel, do you want it? I said, well, I've been waiting 2 years.
The thing that sort of swayed me was that he's a very good player with spin bowling. Used his feet very, very well, had all the shots, was prepared to advance down the wicket to get after spinners. And so that's, in my mind, tipped the scales in his way.
A number 3 positions, just think of the people who batted number 3 for Australia in the past. And think about what you do, you've got to do the stuff that they did. I'll keep thinking of Bradmans and Chappells and all these type of stuff, And
he was absolutely rapt to be given the opportunity again to bat at 3, pivotal role. He knew he had my confidence and support, so I think he left the room just, 10-foot tall, bulletproof, ready for action.
After 1 hour of talking to me about what's required as a test cricketer and as a test batsman, a number 3 batsman, I walked out of that room feeling 10 foot tall. I just thought I was invincible. I just felt Allan Border put a red coat around my neck and put number S on the front.
Newly promoted Dean Jones made the most of his chance and punished anything loose.
Nice job. Full toss, banana straight right.
David Boon was Australia's first-day hero with a mostly patient but sometimes savage innings of 122. Sharma seemed determined to expose Boon's hook shot, but with no success.
Does the same thing again and gets away with it again.
As Jones and Boon went on the attack, the stifling heat took its toll.
It was so hot and the energy levels were just completely sapping out of us, because it's a bit like a tennis player playing the serve and volley game. I knew it was hot. Halfway through between lunch and tea, when Chris Reedkamp, a local, he said, you know how hot it is here, Dino, today? I said, no. He said, when I was driving here this morning, I saw the rats running away. All the local rats. I know it's hot then.
The heat in Madras. Chennai, there are only 3 weathers: hot, hotter, hottest. So it belonged to the hotter category.
You can normally cope with a clean, hot heat, but when that humidity, which it does in Madras, gets very high, it's like walk a lap and the sweat starts coming through the eyelets in your shoes. And it's very taxing.
David Boon's 100 was his 3rd in Test cricket and was finally helped by some Indian generosity.
I almost became a bit dizzy and hazy and couldn't focus on the ball, and then the second new ball came along.
In desperation, Kapil Dev finally took the new ball just before stumps, and Sharma got the message. A magnificent hand by the young Tasmanian, including 21 fours.
So I was really disappointed to get out at that late stage, and Ray had to come in as the night watchman for about 15 minutes. But pleased to get 100, but disappointed to get out in that fashion.
I look up and get a bit of a shake, and there he is telling me to get the pads on, and I just sort of started to get butt out, and he just said, just do it. So when the captain tells you to do it, you just did it.
If the players had hoped for some relief from the oppressive heat, it was not to be. The cement of the tiered concrete stadium continued to be baked by the broiling sun and was almost too hot to touch.
I don't think they played today in those conditions. I think they would say it was harmful to your health. It really was quite ridiculous when you look back, and it was so hot and so humid that you'd just step outside and it was like walking into a furnace.
When play resumed this morning, night watchman Ray Bright showed complete disdain for India's best bowler, Ravi Shastri.
And this could be a six, yes. It was just about over the line.
Not to be outdone, Dean Jones advanced from 88 to 96 with 2 spanking boundaries. The first a square leg.
No question of my mind that I'm cutting that off.
And the second, high, wide and handsome through mid-wicket.
Yeah, that's about what he thinks.
Then Ray Bright's gone saying, Jesus, it's hot. God, I know it's hot, Ray. I was here yesterday. Look, just... And he said, Jesus, it's hot. And I could see him. He's going crimson red and he's starting to blow up, I
ended up holding out for 30-odd because I virtually just couldn't hold the bat in the end, and I didn't really know. I was in a fair bit of trouble. They got the doctor, but I had no idea what was happening. I was almost sort of not with it at all.
He was basically gone. He was shot, almost reduced to tears.
Jones, playing in only his 3rd test, defied insufferable heat to reach his maiden test century with this on-drive from Shastri's bowling. It was the achievement of a player who had learned to curb impetuosity and work for his runs.
Look at that.
I was thinking, I've made 100, test 100. You made it. But my brain was saying, hang on, there's more to come here. I'm not worried about the 100. I want to get more.
Jones even overshadowed his illustrious partner Allan Border in a stand of 178 for the 4th wicket as both men overcame India's bowlers in the testing conditions.
The tragedy of it was played in India because it didn't get the publicity, it didn't get the recognition. It's one of the great innings ever played, one of the gutsiest innings ever played.
And I think Dean Jones, I've never bowled against a better batter ever in my life. I mean, he didn't let me pitch the ball, really. The moment I would flight the ball, he was there at the pitch of the ball. And it was a lovely sight. There are some times in your career when you enjoy being hit. And I think that was one innings I really enjoyed being hit because I was giving him that challenge that come out, step out and hit me. And he would accept it every time.
It got to a stage where I started to cramp up in my hands, and you get pins and needles in your hands, and your hands start to grow up with that. And you push your hands out trying to stop the cramping, and then I swept one and I started to cramp up in the back leg, and then it started to cramp up my back, and it got to the stage where I think I was in the mid-170s or something, and I knew I was in trouble because I started to urinate in my pants and I couldn't stop it.
He would hit me for a boundary, go to mid-wicket, vomit, come back, do that again. It was amazing. I mean, I was just thinking that he's going to get out, he's going to get tired, but he never did.
I've got to admit that I wasn't overly concerned. It was just, he's a bit crook, and throwing up. But you have these little fits of nausea, then you get back into the stream of things, and you might feel crook again. And
I said, Davey, I've had enough. I'm stopping the game. This is stupid, me vomiting every 2 minutes. We're on TV, and every time I hit the ball in the outfield, I can only walk one. I can't run. I'm cramping up. I can't move anymore.
I was sort of in the situation where I'm thinking, well, I know what James like. I could cajole him into a bit more effort, not knowing how crook he really was. So that famous line about we'll get someone tough out here, we'll get a Queenslander, because I knew Greg Ritchie was in next. I knew that would have the desired effect, and a few major expletives later directed back at me. I knew I'd press the right buttons.
The ailing Jones almost retired at 170, but decided to keep going and became the first Australian to score a Test double century in India.
I cannot remember going into the dressing rooms at 200, 202 not out at tea. I can't remember anything.
By the time he came in, I think 202 not out at tea time, he was like a corpse.
Every time he came off the field, we had assigned players to do certain things for Dino. As he came through, the cap would be taken off, you know, his gloves would be removed, his pads would be removed, someone else would take off his shirts and there'd be an ice bath waiting for him.
We would do that and basically just shove him out the door and say, Dino, go, you're off again. And somehow he would click back in, but as he went on, his eyes started to draw out and draw out and draw out.
I was still batting when he was dismissed at 210, so I just thought, oh, well, what a fantastic knock, and we're getting to that point where we're in a very impregnable position in this game.
I remember when I got out, I got bowled and walked off the ground. I was put in a bath, an ice bath, full of ice, just water, and I just hopped in this bath, and I had a Fanta or something, and I thought, oh, this is like lukewarm water. And obviously it was unbearably cold with ice and all that, and I was okay. The first time all day that I felt, oh, I'm half alive here, I'm all right. And I hopped out of the bath, and that was it.
It wasn't until later that I found out that he sort of collapsed and was in very bad shape and had been rushed off the hospital. And that's when I started to think, oh my God, I've killed him.
I went into a ball because I was cramping that much, and I just couldn't release. I was screaming to high hell that the pain in my back and the stomach, and just cramp right through your whole body. And obviously dehydration and set in, and then I got told later that obviously I went to ambulance to the Apollo hospital, and what happened there in the hospital and chaos and all that type of stuff, and they weighed me and that I lost 7 kilos in the day. I can't remember going to the hospital at all. And Errol Alcott, our Australian physio, tells a story that the ambulance was just amazing. One of the best rides you'll ever get anywhere. And we got to the Apollo hospital, and of course I got wheeled in on a gurney or something, and I went into the emergency room, and there was this one guy, Errol records, that surrounded, he's really badly injured. He's surrounded by nurses and doctors that are prodding and pushing him with all these type of stuff, and he's been hit by a bus, evidently, and he's mangled. And all of a sudden, someone says, Australian cricketer, dehydration, Dean Jonas is here. And all of them just left this poor bloke and just looked after me. And Errol's gone, looked across, and there's this nurse just patting this poor bloke's hand, you'll be right. And he's got broken legs and ribs and cuts and all that. All I've got is dehydration. Because I was a cricketer, an Australian cricketer at that. They just looked after me.
I've got to take full credit for, his legendary status now. I mean, if he'd walked off, retired, hurt 170, mate, no legend. Now he's made 210 and nearly died. I mean, I'm responsible for that.
Dean Jones spent the night on an intravenous drip, but was fit to play the next day. Allan Border scored his 19th Test century and closed Australia's innings on a massive total of 7 for 574.
I think when somebody get 500 runs on the first day or second day, you're always on the back foot and try to say how we can save the Test match. It wasn't at that stage how we can win it, because the game was already gone out of our hands.
India began typically, with Chris Shrikant in aggressive command, swatting Reid for 4 to bring up his 50.
I know only one way to play is play attacking. If I try different there, I'll be probably the first or the second over.
Greg Matthews recovered from an early pasting to lower the temperatures of the Indian supporters. He claimed Gavaskar for 8, caught and bowled. Then Shrikant, after compiling 53, was picked up at backward point by Greg Ritchie. Azharuddin chimed in with 50 himself, including some flowing shots. But he ultimately fell to Ray Bright, also caught and bowled. Matthews ended the third day with 4 for 86, enticing Shastri forward for Zura to take the catch. And Pandit lofted him to the comfortable hands of Steve Waugh at mid-on.
Tragedy for India. At stumps on the third day, India was precariously placed at 7 for 270, still requiring another 104 runs to avoid the follow-on. India's fate rested on the shoulders of their captain, Kapil Dev.
We were in shambles at the end of that day's play, and Kapil was the overnight not out. And I think he was batting 10 or 15, and he got back in the dressing room and he was furious. He just sat us down and he just gave us an enormous lecture.
He said, hey, you guys think this is one-day cricket or what? This is test cricket. We are facing follow-on, blah, blah, blah. All of us just got blasted.
Next morning, Steve Waugh opened the bowling, and the first 3 balls went up in the air, over mid-off, over cover point, and a flick over square leg, if I remember. Again, in the air, exactly the kind of shots that he had criticized us for us the previous evening. But that was Kapil.
Seven for 270 overnight and more than 100 to avoid the follow-on, but that didn't deter Kapil Dev. Only the wicket of Sharma provided relief for the Australians on what was a morning for Dev.
Does it again.
Kapil had the knack of playing these kind of innings when India needed them. With the kind of batting ability Kapil had, Kapil should have scored at least a couple more thousand runs. But then, bowling took a fair bit out of him. And my impression of Kapil when he went into bat was, if the runs were needed, he would score them.
He just came out with no fear and decided that everything was going to go. And in the meantime, he played some pretty decent cricket shots as well, which he was very capable of. And he scored at such a rate.
Anything I was hitting, it was just my day, I would say. And if I want to play against the spin, I could manage to do that. I can want to hit something, I can manage to do that. I think there are times of cricketers come in life when you want to do something, you can always do it.
On to his 4th Test 100 and, in the words of the locals,
ecstasy. And that's his 100.
As only Kapil can do, not scared to lift the ball in the air and just played all the shots, played it very well, played a very aggressive innings and started to sort of obviously save India's bacon.
Just listen to the reaction of the local crowd when Kapil Dev made sure that India avoided the follow-on.
That innings made the match. I mean, this match was a tight test match because of that innings, I feel, because if we hadn't got out of the follow-on, then probably the Australians would have won the game by the 4th day or the 5th day lunchtime. But it was that innings of Kapil's which was amazing.
The Australians wrapped up the Indian tail after they'd averted the follow-on. Yadav was caught by Border in close, but this was the man they needed earlier, Kapil Dev, who ultimately went for 119, falling to Matthews, who took 5 wickets. With a 177 lead, Australian intentions were positive. Quick runs, and they lost wickets in achieving that. Marsh was one to fall defensively, out for 11. And first innings double century maker Dean Jones lacked the timing of his first knock.
Maninder Singh.
David Boon went unusually leg before. But the Australian runs flowed on to establish a sizable lead. Then Captain Allan Border played one out of the How Not to Bat manual.
Basically, overnight, we're 570, which gave us a lead of 347. So that was the big conundrum, what to do at that point. Do we call off the jam there and have a crack them? Do we bat for half an hour, try and bat them out of the game, and then we can sort of maintain an attacking field for the remainder of the day?
I convinced a rather reluctant Allan at that stage to close the innings at the end of that day, because Allan's natural attitude would have been to go on.
Allan was pretty cautious, understandably, because we hadn't won a lot of Test matches, and we'd been struggling.
We know this wicket is starting to spin. We know it's got to break up sometime. The odds are all in our favour. If we're going to win this match, we've got to come forward and say we want to win the match, and the way to do that is to close.
So that was a pretty positive move and a change in a different direction from being trying to save a test match to actually trying to win one.
The way I played my cricket, no way I could have put the shutter down and say, okay, relax, we just want to draw the game, no.
347, the target on the last day in 90 overs, it's not very easy. And Allan Border, when he gave that target, would have never imagined that anybody would go after that target.
India began the chase in typical fashion with Shrikant leading the way.
Shrikant's a naturally attacking player, so he was going to go and play his own game. And Sunny picked it up from there, and Sunny batted really fluently and set it up. I thought that opening partnership really set it up. The runs came quickly, they were coming at over 4 runs and over. And, suddenly it was game on.
Australia finally got a breakthrough when Shrikant holed out. Steve Waugh running around from long off to long on to take a superb catch. India's hopes for victory rested very much on the shoulders of their batting genius, Sunil Gavaskar.
If I could hang in there till about tea time, then we had a good chance that we'd have a platform for the likes of Kapil Dev with their extraordinary stroke producing ability to be able to take us to a win.
Gavaskar launched his assault on the Australian bowlers, unleashing a full array of shots in what proved to be a truly majestic display of superb batting.
I remember him actually defending a ball with no follow-through whatsoever against Bruce Reid, and it just going for 4 straight down the ground.
I still have nightmares about it, to be quite honest, because he was just in scintillating touch. Well, I hadn't seen him in that sort of aggressive, just go for it type mood.
When he gets down his from song and playing those cover drives off, basically on his knees, he's so fluent and gets down through the ball, you think a bit of the, oh no.
Down on one knee, hitting Craig McDermott through covers. I mean, I hadn't seen him play that shot ever before. All of a sudden, he's producing this sort of cricket just when India needed it.
India were 2 for 193 at tea, needing to score 155 runs in the final session, including 20 overs in the last hour.
But yeah, there was a stage where it looked like the game slipped away from us. India realistically should have won it pretty easily coming into the last session.
At 90, Gavaskar miscued from Bright and was caught by Dean Jones in the covers.
This was just the break the weary Australians needed to get themselves back into the match. Greg Matthews obviously agreed.
He was such a guy who could do anything to disturb the opponent, and he can change your concentration so easily because he can do so many funny things on the ground. And suddenly you say, man, let me play cricket. And suddenly you see he come out and say something, or he jump around and he talk to the crowd.
The vital dismissal was Kapil Dev. He was caught by Bright off Matthews for 1. The score then 5 for 253.
We all thought that as long as Kapil Dev's in the crease, everything will be very easy. The moment Kapil got out, slight jitters started running into us, and I think that's where the Aussies also started putting more pressure.
Kapil was walking out. I made sure I went from the other side of the side screen. I was the vice captain of the side. I let him come in here, and so he couldn't see me. I went from the other side because I didn't want any message. In my mind, it was pretty clear that we're still going for it. And as it happened, the first ball, I went down the track, literally met Ray Bright even as he left the ball, and hit it through the covers for 4. And the field had been brought up at that stage by Allan Border. That first ball going to the boundary meant the field went back, and I said, geez, these guys are serious, it's still on.
Ravi Shastri played a brilliant innings, to be quite honest, because he mixed, resolute defence, knocking the ball around, ones and twos type scenario, with some big hitting. And Ravi was a massive hitter of the ball. I mean, when he hit a 6, it used to disappear, halfway up into the stands.
You had to attack early on because we were still behind the 8 ball at that stage. You needed someone to go. And I remember hitting a couple of boundaries and a couple of big sixes of Craig Matthews, and which went into the crowd. And the game was set then. You knew you didn't have to do anything silly, and you would win this game.
Needing to average 6 runs and over, Ravi Shastri maintained India's victory charge, hitting Matthews into the stand.
In the morning, I would say that there might have been 5, 6, 7,000 people there. By the end of the day, it's nearly chock-a-block as the news went round the bazaars and the markets of Madras that the game was getting tight and India may win. Ravi Shastri used that strength of the crowd and the support of the Indian people that came in that afternoon, and I've never seen anything like it at a cricket match. You see it more so at a tennis match or a footy game or something like that. But he was remonstrating to them to lift them more and more, and the noise got louder and louder and louder, and that sort of intensified our nervousness.
The gallery is in absolute rapture.
As if coping with Ravi Shastri wasn't already enough, coping with the conditions also became a problem.
Ray Bright and Greg Matthews were obviously pivotal players for the last day, but Ray had sort of had a cumulative effect over the 4 days of cricket. Bowling on the last day, he became disorientated and very dehydrated and crook, and basically had to leave the ground.
It was a long day, and I thought I just wasn't switched on, and I thought maybe there might be someone out there that might be a little bit more alert, feeling a bit better than I was, that might be able to do a job, because I was getting a bit tight in that situation. I thought I just needed to go off for a little while to refocus.
The unsung hero for Australia on that final day was off-spin bowler Greg Matthews. After claiming 5 wickets in India's first innings, Matthews defied the heat and oppressive humidity to bowl virtually unchanged.
Greg Matthews was very, very strong mentally, and amazing, the whole day he kept bowling in that heat with the cap on.
I can understand him bowling in the cap all day with the bright sun, but to have a sleeveless sweater on in mid-30 degrees and very high humidity, it worried us a bit.
I think the closest I can come up with was the typical Greg explanation that he once saw a show on the nomadic herders, and these guys who were rounding up sheep or whatever in the deserts used to wear the woolen coats to keep the cold air in and keep the hot air out. So that was his theory. But I think for Greg it was more than that. When I look at it a bit closely, it was almost Greg saying, look, this is not too tough, we can do this, and I'm going to show you by wearing 2 jumpers that I can do it. Pushing myself to the limit. I can still bowl 39 and a half overs on the last day wearing 2 jumpers, so what are the rest of you guys doing?
To bowl that period of time in that heat, and the last ball we got compared to the first ball was exactly the same. The effort was the same, the intent was the same, the intensity was the same, and Greg Matthews really, really played for Australia that day.
I think we do forget Greg's performance, an all-round performance in that game. 10 wickets and bowling basically all the last day, just extraordinary effort from him. And he made a couple of scores in the game, 20s and 30s type scenario, so he contributed with the bat as well.
Several acrimonious incidents finally unsettled Pandit, who played on to Matthews. And the message was clear as the 6th Indian batsman departed.
It did get heated. It was a pretty spiteful match to look back on it. I think both sides knew how important that match was to the rest of the series and to the development of both those sides. India was a pretty experienced side and wanted to stay, I guess, ahead of us in the pecking order. For us, we wanted to get a bit of a reputation as a decent side.
Well, we're all human. We all sort of err sometimes in those sort of scenarios under pressure, and both sides were guilty of it. But look, the actual cricket that was played was just outstanding. And just the little personality clashes that sort of happened throughout the day probably added to the tension and the spite and the overall spectacle.
There was a couple of players were engaged in a headbutt at one stage in drinks. It wasn't a major headbutt, but it was something that definitely happened.
The conditions had taken the toll on the players, not only physically but mentally and emotionally. They were spent, and they were irritable, they were angry, they were sniping at each other. And it needed a lot of control from Vikram Raju and Dara Dottawala, the 2 umpires. They became embroiled in it as well, understandably enough. At one stage, Dottawala, in an extraordinary move, said to Allan Border that the pace of it was too slow. He needed to quicken things along.
So I had to go and request him to just speed up things because it's getting dark, and ultimately it's no good for the batsman to bat in a dim light.
Well, the inference was that we were slowing down the over 8 on purpose, maybe trying to force the game into the twilight sort of time, which does happen in India very quickly. The twilight, there's no such thing. It's sunshine, or then it gets very dark quickly.
Border and Dhothiwala were at their best, and I'm telling you, calm down. Don't talk to me like this. I'm telling you.
I can't remember exactly what I said, but it was, you worry about what you got to do, mate, and we'll sort of be in charge of the cricket side of things. And he got very irate about it, and after a little bit more toing and froing, he said, I will send you off.
Now, I sat back on thinking, is that what I think he's just said?
Oh, you can't send me off. Then I thought to myself, well, maybe he can. So I turned to Bernie and said, well, Bernie, look, he can't send me off, can he? And Bernie, typical, just gave it the bugger if I know and walked off.
Allan always dines on the fact that for his right-hand man to not know the laws of cricket in that respect was quite poor.
I didn't say I'll send you out the ground, but I pointed out to the dressing room and I told him that I'll be reporting you over there.
I was there, very much there. And in fact, I took Dhothiwala away. I said, come on, relax now, let's get on with the game, because I wanted the overs. So I'm not going to allow these two to carry on, because that's another 5-10 minutes gone. And the light was fading. I said, no, come back, calm down, come back here and start umpiring. We want some overs.
We're under pressure at this stage. The game's ebbing and flowing. No one knows which way it's going. 5 minutes of cricket, we're on top. Next 5 minutes, they're on top. And it was just getting, very, very tight out in the middle.
If that game was played today, the referees would have been meeting for a considerable time at the end of the day, and there would have been some very, very substantial penalties handed out. No doubt about that.
The Tim Zura having a go, and my particular batsman, and the batsman said to him, look, I'm going to stick this bat where the sun don't shine, and he bent over and said, well, do it in the middle, and cameras just had it full on. And I'm thinking, this ain't going to look good the next day.
Tim Zora was trying to work up all the Indian players, because basically what the Australians needed was wickets. If they kept getting wickets at regular intervals, they would win the game.
But to get those wickets, Allan Border needed all his bowlers on the ground.
I think there was only a few overs to go at that stage, and I asked Lizard, does AB need me out there for the rest of the day?
Dave Gilbert came running out with the message, do you reckon, would you like him out here?
And I remember the look on the face of Allan Border, and that was enough to know exactly what he was thinking when, Dave Gilbert delivered the message that Ray had asked whether he was required.
I think a few expletives later got the message through that, yes, it'd be great if Ray could, come out there and help us out, because at that point, it was so important that he be there.
He gave Lizard the biggest spray of all time to get that weak so-and-so out here. So Lizard said, come in and said, yes, Allan would like you out there, Spotty. So off I went and managed to get a few wickets late in the day, which turned the game around.
4 overs to go, 17 needed. Sharma holed out to McDermott, and it was 7 for 331. Kiran Moray aimed a sweep at Ray Bright. He was adjudged LBW, 8 for 334.
There was a partnership going, and we're cruising, and then all of a sudden, 3 wickets went just like this. And then suddenly, from a position where you were going to win the game easily, there was the fear of we could be losing this one.
The world's best number 10, Yadav, launched the assault at Matthews.
Big one.
And Ravi was very, very good for them in that situation, keeping things calm, talking to the guy at the other end, getting the crowd going, keeping the pressure on us with the way he played, and just his body language was very, very positive and added to the whole theatre.
When Ray Bright commenced the penultimate over of the match, India required 7 runs to win off 12 deliveries with 2 wickets in hand.
Moment of suspense here. Shastri looking at him. Don't let me down, Shiv.
Number 10 batsman Yadav didn't let him down, finding the gap through point and scoring 2 valuable runs.
4 to win. Yadav went for the winning stroke, but he was bowled off his pads by Bright, 9 for 344.
India's hopes now rested with their last man in, Maninder Singh.
I mean, I'll tell you very honestly, I was absolutely numb. I didn't hear a word from the crowd. I didn't know who was standing besides me. I really didn't know what Ravi was talking to me at that time, because you can imagine the pressure. Playing in India, chance of winning a test match, 3 runs to go, last wicket.
Maninder Singh played out the remainder of Ray Bright's over. The stage was set.
Now it's all up to Shastri.
Now it was also all up to Greg Matthews.
All credit to the Australians. They haven't let go, they've attacked, they've kept the ball in play, they've kept the ball at the wickets and really challenged India all the way.
Should I go for this big one? Knowing very well that you had already hit a couple of sixes, so you had every right to believe in yourself.
I was panicking that he would just basically wait for the right ball and just hit the ball out of the ground, and that would be the end of the game.
5 balls remain, 4 runs to get.
The pressure was immense even on the fielders. And Steve Waugh, of all people, misfielded in the sense he shouldn't have given me 2.
And not making excuses, I got a pretty horrible bounce and it hit my wrist and bobbled up, and I had to turn away and pick it up, and by that stage they'd run 2, so I thought that's fantastic. I've just cost us the test match here.
The game was slipping away very quickly, and so then it was just, what's Ravi going to do? What is he going to do?
If I take the single, that's the last thing Allan Border wants me to do, really. Because then India can't lose. And anything can happen.
I was very surprised and then relieved that he gave us the opportunity to bowl at Maninder for those last few deliveries.
Number 11, so what? You might just swing at one, get a top edge or get a leg by, or the bowler might bowl a no ball and you could win the game.
Having come that close, it would have been a tragedy if India had lost the game. And so I think he did the right thing by taking the single, because there were still 2 balls to go. And Maninder was really no mug with the bat.
As far as the Australians were concerned, they were positive. I was positive as well. I thought I'll get that single and take India to victory.
I was thinking myself, don't hit it to me.
Rough deals from Australian bowlers. Matthews, trusted to the bowling.
I told him, wait for the last ball. See if you can score off the first 2. Last one, just go for it. You have nothing to lose. But before that, there was Uncle Vikram Raju, who was there right out of Texas, shooting his finger up in a hurry.
It's a tie. The match has ended in a tie. It's an unbelievable result. History has been made here at the Chidambaram Stadium at Chepauk.
My hand is up because there was a definite nick. In my mind, there's a definite nick. The ball hit it. And if you look at AB, he's actually going for a catch initially, then trying to stop the ball.
I didn't appeal. I just see the ball rolling out in my direction, so I'm diving, making sure I'm getting the ball so they can't get a run. And of course, the appeal goes up. I'm starting to become aware of a big, massive appeal. And you turn around and the umpire's got his finger up in a shot.
I've put my hand up there, not knowing what's happened at the back. The celebrations have started. Turn back. Ooh, his hand has already gone up and come down. I said, what happened there? He said, no, he's out. I said, when did you give him out? I couldn't see it. By the time I turned around, everyone was walking off the park.
And you're still convinced to this day that it was an inside edge?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, Allan Border was standing at Silly Point, and as soon as he saw the umpire's finger go up, he just said, bad luck, son, and they all ran towards the pavilion, because I don't think they really wanted to stay in the ground in case the umpire changes his decisions.
One scoreboard said it was tie, one scoreboard said the other end we won it by 1, and I'm running off the ground, I think, oh, beauty, have we won? Because I don't know. And then Bob Simpson told us, no, it's a tie, and I've been to both of them. That's the first thing he said. And I'm thinking, Tie's good, isn't it? That's good, isn't it?
I do remember getting a couple of souvenir stumps on the Waugh. That was, you know, the one thing in my mind, get a couple of stumps, you know, this is a famous moment.
I saw a happy Australian camp. They were really, you know, thank you, Vikram Raju. You've done the job for us.
The bat was not near the pad. Bat never came close to the ball. So I was confident, and he was plumb in front of the wicket.
I've got to be honest, and I think there may have been a hint of an inside edge, but look, it was close bat pad. It was very, very tight run thing.
On turning track on the 5th day, when the bowler is spinning the ball from right to left and left to right, and suddenly his finger come out, umpire's finger come out so quick.
Because they had a tie, they wanted to win the match. For that reason, we have been scapegoated. Of course, I'm still, even today, I am telling you the same thing. So as a neutral man, I should be, as far as possible, confident, and then I have given the decision.
The way Mr. Vikram Raju gave him out, I am very confident, and I have very much confidence in my partner that he must have given the correct decision.
I was reading one of their interviews after the match where they said that they wanted to prove one thing to the visitors, that we don't favor our Indian side. And when you have that frame of mind, you're going to make mistakes favoring the opposition. And I think that's what happened.
I didn't favor either Australian or any Indian player. Whole of the match, I am telling you.
I remember storming into the umpire's room straight away, you know, and you know, having a real go at Vikram Raju. In this day and age, I would have been banned maybe for a year, for all you know, and gave him a real service over there. And he said, "It is the right decision, and I'm glad to be part of history." You know, by putting that finger up and being involved in only the second tied Test match. I looked at him and I said, "You frickin' beauty."
And I got the photograph of that decision given by me.
That was the last ball incident.
Yes.
That has created history.
Yes. Index finger went up.
Don't you agree, Vikram, that it was in our destiny? It was
Yes.
a godsend thing that we are associated with this match.
Yes.
My initial reaction was, oh, what a mess, because we were 326 for 5 or 6 and needed only 22 runs to win, and we should have won.
But that time, the anger was much more bigger than the moment you can recollect as, you know, it's something we done which never or only once happened before.
You're part of the history. Whether you played the ball or you've not played the ball, people are going to remember even after you die.
The realisation setting in as to it was a tie, you know, the second tie in history, something very, very special, and we felt it.
Since Test cricket began in 1877, there has been only one other tied Test match.
I'd grown up watching newsreels of the tied Test in Brisbane, and Gary Sobers was my early cricketing idol as a result of that. So then all of a sudden we're involved in a tied Test match ourselves. It was very, very special.
Not only for the fact to have seen the two tied tests, but to be in a position to realise the importance that they had to cricket. For instance, the Brisbane one. That was the start of perhaps the greatest Test series ever. So to be there and appreciate that. Then, when we go to Madras, what have we got? The Australian team trying to claw its way back, plays a great match, gets a tie out of it, sets themselves up for the next, perhaps 10 years.
Everyone talks about the Brisbane Test match, Australia-West Indies, as the tied Test match.
This game was as good, if not better, than that 1960-61 tied game.
It happened in India, and at that time, I don't think anything that happened in India or Pakistan was given too much of an importance.
It really is the forgotten tie, and it shouldn't be.
India, I think, will always, because of the World Cup, the tied Test match, a lot of the players from that era will be very, very near and dear to our hearts.
Look through the personnel that were involved in that particular match, and the nucleus that sort of then subsequently went on to pretty good careers, and then you look at, say, 89 Ashes tour and then beyond, you'd have to say that, the early seeds were definitely sown back in 86.
The realisation was there with the Australians as well, that this Indian team can play anywhere, not just in India, but can win in Australia as well.
India and Australia in Test match cricket before that haven't had much to do. But this tied test has brought the two countries together. There's no doubt about that. And the relationships that it's forged from it, you can tell that already now because there's a Border Gavaskar trophy. And of course, those two great guys played in the tied test.